Hopefully your Thanksgiving dinner wasn't as hot as these takes. Otherwise, you might have some serious burns. It's Black Friday, but none of these takes are 50% off. They're 100% right. Let's talk about it. Rams in town, in Charlotte, 1 o'clock. Oh, geez. A lot of people are fearful. I think a lot of people in Carolina are maybe seeing a little bit of doom settle in. We're all grateful, of course, but you lose to the Niners. Now you have the best team in football, Super Bowl favorite, MVP favorite, Matt Stafford rolling into town. He's thrown 19 touchdowns without a single pick. He's a gunslinger, slinging it, making risky throws, but not throwing interceptions, which is remarkable. And honestly, it's tough not to look at this Rams team and think they're not going to win 2 Super Bowls. Like honestly, they've got a killer head coach, the best head coach in football by and far. McVay's on another level. We're going to hear from him in a minute here. Stafford's playing out of his mind. He had some injuries in prior years / months. Some people wrote him off, but they write all the greats off. Remember Tom Brady? It took 10 years of coverage saying he's going to retire for him to actually retire at the ripe age of 45. I think Stafford and McVay could have a similar fate. Why bring that to an end? Well, they're 9-2 now, Super Bowl favorites. It's generally a weird year in the NFL where you have a lot of teams at the top who maybe shouldn't be there, like the Bears, the Patriots, the Colts. The Chiefs are having a down year. And for that reason, it's 2025, 2026, year of the Ram. Year of the Ram. And they're going to be opportunistic. And I think the Panthers have a serious chance at throwing a monkey wrench in it. And I know they have some injuries that probably will concern you. You're not going to have Roseboom for another week. Charles out, Jaycee Horn out. That one hurts, especially against this prolific Rams passing attack. Cade Mays, he's still out. Chandler Zavala out. So a couple weaknesses on the O-line. The defense injuries hurt the most. Jaycee Horn not playing. After Jaycee Horn almost won you that game against San Francisco. I think if you have a touchdown, when you have 1st and goal from the 1, if Bryce Young doesn't throw that pick, if they run the ball with Rico, you're talking about a close game and maybe another throw or two. You're talking about a win for the Panthers. And the reason you're even in that game at San Francisco is number 8. And now you're going against a real quarterback, another really good coach, and a team that is as hot as any team has been in the NFL this season. They're getting some guys back on defense. The offense is the main story, and Sean McVay wearing his aviator sunglasses in his press conference. The guy's living in another world. He is. He talks fast. He thinks fast. He reminds me a little bit of Belichick, just obviously he's on the offensive side, where he's a step ahead. He's a step ahead. There was a route Puka Nacua ran. I think it was in the last game, maybe the game before. He ran like a little in-breaking route. He ran between the tackle and tight end, literally running routes through the offensive line. Some of the crazy stuff that McVay schemes up. And here's Sean McVay on exactly that. I think it's amazing to listen to the Rams press conferences. Here's McVay talking about his in-game adjustments, which have been an issue for the Panthers on the offensive side of the ball. Here's McVay talking about the offense and the adjustments they've made.
You know, like I've told you before, and really Devontae's this too, but Matthew is an extension of the coaching staff. And on that particular concept, he had a couple different options, and there was a 3-man surface to the other side that was kind of coming into his vision. He had a good feel for the post player, was kind of middled up right there, and he was able to periff Devontae's release and get the ball up and down. But you don't take for granted how rare it is, the things Matthew can see, and then the ability to be able to win quickly, stay stacked, and then be able to finish that. was cool. But those guys are always talking about how can we improve things. And that's what's great about having these video boards out here. You don't wait till practice. I think the best corrections are made in real time. And then when you're able to see it, and then in between series when the offense is going and then the defense is up, now those guys are able to kind of be able to collaborate, communicate, and get connected on, all right, what's the best way to be able to move forward rather than having to wait until the next day or when you get back in the film room, being able to do that in the real time. And that's what the real ones do, and that's what those two guys did in that.
That's what the real ones do. McVay talking about the in-game adjustments. You always wonder what the quarterback's doing when he has the freaking iPad out. When they're on the sideline and you see, I watched Joe Burrow last night. He's on the sideline after that freaking receiver they have. The guy replacing T. Higgins. He's a Penn State alum. I freaking forgot who it was. But it's a beautiful ball. Just a beautiful throw by Joe Burrow. And the receiver just stops running. He just stops running on the route. And the ball was right there. It would have been a touchdown. Burrow's back on the sideline looking at the iPad. He's not thinking in that moment. He's just angry. He's just angry at the missed opportunity. But this is something the Rams have done very well. I also think this is something the Panthers have done really well on defense. And I think an underrated story of this game, we'll talk playoffs in a minute, but an underrated story is Evero versus McVay. Evero from Los Angeles, grew up there per se. Now he's going against Sean McVay. Both those guys have been tacticians. Evero doesn't get as much credit because, one, he's on the Panthers. Two, the Panthers aren't a Super Bowl favorite. Three, he coaches defense. People care much less about defense than they do a quarterback and a prolific aerial passing offense, which is what the Rams are. And I think Evero, particularly in that game against San Francisco, but he's done it all season, where he's playing a game of chess. I think his ability to scheme things up, make in-game adjustments. One area I've noticed it particularly this season is those blitzes he's done with the linebackers, whether it's Roseboom or Trevon Wallace. I think Cherilus even had one or two of them, where he just shoots the linebacker in and catches the offense completely off guard. He's even done it with Moehrig a couple times, either from the nickel or when Moehrig is playing down closer to the line of scrimmage. Evero's ability to create a pass rush, get pressure on the quarterback, despite not really having premium edge talent, not having premium pass rush talent. Like, you have Derek Brown, who's been pretty good, but that's not his strong suit. Derek Brown's strong suit isn't getting after the passer. Scorton's been good. He's not great. Scorton, at this point in his career, is not a premium top dollar pass rusher. That's not what he is. He can grow into that. So where have the Panthers been able to create pressure? They have a couple of sacks this season between Roseboom and Wallace and Moehrig. Timely blitzes from Evero. I think there's a million other adjustments he's made as well. And it's similar to McVay and what he's doing on offense with the Rams, where maybe they have a 3-and-out, they have a slow start. The Panthers give up a touchdown on defense. And these coaches are so great because you can get hit in the mouth by the Niners on offense. You can give up a touchdown drive, and then you can come back and pick Brock Purdy off 2 or 3 times. The Rams, similar. They see what the defense is doing, and McVay's telling you right there, we have the iPad out. No, you're not worrying about the play calling and the script and all that. It's just, this is what the defense is doing. This is how we attack it. We have certain aspects of our game plan, but we can always pivot. And I think that's something Dave Canales needs to grow into as a coach. But I think it's something Sean McVay does particularly well. And then he calls Stafford the extension of the coaching staff. The extension of the coaching staff. That's something I think the Panthers really need. They need more symbiosis between quarterback and coach. You can't have a quarterback and coach that need marriage counseling, which is what Dave Canales and Bryce Young probably need at this point. McVay, Stafford, they're the best in the game at this. Evero's really good at this on defense. You're not going to have Jaycee Horn. You're not going to have Corey Thornton, broken fibula. That's sad. That's really sad for a guy who's playing out of his mind, undrafted, underdog. He'll come back. You have some injuries. How do you match up against this prolific Rams offense? I'm interested in seeing it. Even if you get a dud from the offense, even if Bryce Young isn't great or you aren't able to move the ball, the Rams, for example, maybe they just crash down on the run and Bryce Young isn't able to make plays. Whatever the story is, I think it's going to be interesting watching this game through the lens of Panthers defense versus Rams offense. Your defense has been good all season. There's been a couple blips, but Evero's been able to adjust in game as good as anyone else. I hit on this just a moment ago, but I want to reinforce it even further, which is this idea that I watch Zach Taylor, I watch Kevin Stefanski, then I watch McVay and Shanahan. I always keep tabs on the coaches. And I think at this point, you obviously know something needs to be changed in the offseason, whether it's personnel shifts at quarterback, you bring in a new guy, you bring in a backup, you have a competition. That's what some commenters are saying. I'm going to tell you what Canales really needs to do in a minute. But we all agree there needs to be some overhaul, some shift. But I think fundamentally, you watch Sean McVay, and you go, Dave Canales isn't even near this type of offensive mind. And not many are. And honestly, you can still win with Zach Taylor or Kevin Stefanski. You need a really good quarterback, of course, but you don't need to be Sean McVay to win a Super Bowl. It just really helps when you have an offensive mind like that. And I think listening to McVay, watching McVay, and then he has a really good quarterback he's working with, you see some of the lapses that Dave Canales might have, some of the shortcomings he has as, I don't want to use the word play caller, but the ability to adjust, the ability to be creative. I think he's a little in over his head. And you look at some of these other situations where it's worked, where they've been able to make adjustments, where the coach is really able to take ownership over the offense and succeed. There's some other things going on, and Dave Canales alluded to it in his Wednesday press conference. Here is Dave Canales on the benefit of having a diverse set of coaches in the room.
It's huge. And I love having coaches that come from different places that have had success so that I can bounce off ideas for ways we might structure our meetings, ways we might structure our practices, and also just from a game plan standpoint, how to attack, how to get different concepts involved, because that's where we can pick different pieces from where we've been and try to make those come alive, so long as it fits what the players do well, and having a bunch of guys come from the Rams, Goody and Joe were at the Bucks, and they had a lot of success in the last couple of years, and really just allows us to have that diversity along the staff and good information.
So Canales says, I love having coaches from different places. Is Tepper putting the gun to his head again? Hey, Dave, we're going to bring someone in new in 2026. We're going to bring someone else in here. Because I know some people think Canales is coaching for his job. They see the Achilles heel he might have or whatever it is. I think generally we can all agree this guy's in over his head. I think it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Tepper knew this when he hired him. You bring in Canales, you bring in all of his guys aside from Evero. Evero was here previously. But Idzik's his guy, Tracy Smith, the special teams coordinator, his guy, Joe Gilbert, technically his guy through Tampa. They had an existing relationship, the Panthers offensive line coach. And they have some other guys that I think come from different places, like the receivers coaches. And, if you go really down the hierarchy there are different minds in there. But generally, the guy that matters most, the OC, he's Canales' guy. And I think I saw a number of comments talking about this. I think it's such a great take. They need a mind in there. They could benefit from having an alternate coach in there. And some people go, well, they tried Frank Reich. He was the head coach. He was experienced. He coached different quarterbacks to success. They've had that, veteran mind in there. Well, I think the issue with Frank Reich is he lacks some of the leadership qualities. So I think for Canales, his skill set is the intangible, some of the motivational stuff I think he does well. I think he works really well with others. In other words, I think that relationship between Evero and Canales was fractured more than we could see, particularly after you draft Tetcherow and McMillan, and Evero is sitting there with a 32nd ranked defense. He's under a bunch of fire in the offseason. And yes, you made some signings, but you really didn't get like a big blue chip splash move for him, unless you consider Moehrig that. But I don't know, Moehrig wasn't a huge financial transaction. You had guys like Josh Sweat getting a lot more money in Arizona, and certain other players were getting paid more. So I think Evero looked at the direction of the franchise and maybe felt that Canales was turning a blind eye to the defense. Certainly, Canales has a seat at the table with Morgan, and there's that famous draft room picture of Canales and Morgan and Tepper sitting there. Then Evero's literally in the corner. I think Canales revitalized his relationship with Evero. Even some of the personnel stuff earlier this season. Remember, Evero wasn't playing Scorching, wasn't playing Yamam Mielen, wasn't playing Ransom. Nick Scott 100% of snaps. And Evero refusing to put those guys in the game, the rookies. Canales literally saying, well, it's our initiative to get the young guys in there. I'm doing everything I can to do it. Evero's still not doing it. So I think they've learned to collaborate. And I think long term, having another mind, having a veteran coach who's been successful with quarterbacks, who's been successful coaching offenses, to take some of the burden off of Canales. And I know it's touchy because Canales takes pride in the play calling. Clear as day, that's what he cares about. He cares about the play calling. That's what he wants to do. He wants to be LaFleur. He wants to be Shanahan. He wants to be McVay. But when he's also in charge with the culture, in charge of developing this young, raw team, this team that has young receivers who don't know what they're doing half the time, and that's fine because they're young, Canales is trying to eat this elephant, and it's tough to do it all in one season. Which is a long way of saying that even if they don't make changes to the coaching staff, even if they don't get rid of Idzik and bring someone else in or whatever it is, I pulled this statistic before we move on. In 2017, Kyle Shanahan went 6-10. 2018, they had C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins at quarterback. Garoppolo got hurt. They went 4-12. These are Shanahan's first two seasons. Combined, 10 wins. Then Jimmy Garoppolo gets healthy. They have a good draft. They get Nick Bosa and Deebo Samuel, I believe. They're 13-3 in 2019. 13-3. Not saying Garoppolo's a great quarterback, but it makes a difference having a quarterback who's on the same page as the coach. They had a good run game, a lot better of a defense that season, so they got a better roster. But it's a long way of saying that sometimes these first-time head coaches start off very poorly. And I don't know what the tale with Canales is going to be. I think with 6 wins, he's solidified his future here. I think they'll probably get 1 or 2 more at least, even if things go poorly. He's the coach of the future. I have a hard time seeing it otherwise. And maybe they're a couple shifts away from being a team like the Niners were in 2019. I don't know who the Garoppolo analogy is. I know people are saying Mac Jones. Do you know Mac Jones is being reported as a second-round pick in value for Mac Jones? A second-round pick for Mac Jones? Oh, my gosh. Oh, we'll worry about that headache when it happens. It's Black Friday. Do they do deals on quarterbacks? Can you get 50% off Mac Jones Can you get him for a fourth? Jokes aside, it is the trade. Past the trade deadline, of course, they can't make a trade, but I'm not giving a second round for Mac Jones. Are you kidding me? I'll go to TJ Maxx and find a quarterback on the discount rack before I give a second rounder for Mac Jones. Get out of here. I think that was The Athletic reporting that. Let's talk about this really quickly before we go into a clip from the Panthers quarterback talking about his progressions. You have a major opportunity against this Rams team. You do. I think if you can win this game, you're right back in the thick of it. Detroit lost yesterday. They're 7-5. Dallas won. They're 6-5-1. Why do these two teams matter? Well, they're the two teams ranked over the Panthers in the hunt. The Panthers at 6-6. Detroit loses Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's a big loss. Dallas is coming into form. Dallas scares me. I think if you're the Lions particularly, you're looking at Dallas going, oh gosh, we don't have a receiver. Gibbs is really good, but now teams can game plan specifically for him if St. Brown is hurt. The Panthers are knocking at the door. You can't take that away. Going into this game, the Panthers are knocking on the door. So if you win this game, it's huge. It's huge. And you own the tiebreaker over Dallas. So Dallas, who I think really is figuring it out on defense despite not having great personnel. Offense is looking a lot better. CeeDee Lamb, a couple really good catches in that Chiefs game. I was stuffing my face watching that. Oh my gosh. The heartburn was kicking in. I don't eat fat like that all the time with all that gravy and stuffing and butter and all that. Bad heartburn. I was sipping on Pepto-Bismol watching the Chiefs watching the Chiefs lose and Dallas win. It all starts on Sunday. I feel I say this every week because every game is critical when you're in the hunt like this, as the Panthers are. And you're playing this Rams team. The story is the offense. I think the story as well is the turnover ratio. They have 20 takeaways and 8 giveaways all season. Stafford's protecting the ball. And he's cocky doing it. It's like he's throwing the ball all over the yard and he's not throwing picks. They have 20 takeaways to 8 giveaways. The Panthers, 14 takeaways. How many does Horn have? Horn has a ton. 17 giveaways. 14 to 17. So Canales, his whole, protect the ball. The philosophy is the ball. Do right more. Don't turn the ball over. So much so that he's brainwashed the quarterback into being fearful of throwing an interception. So much so he has Coker downfield. He has McMillan downfield. They have a step and he doesn't throw the ball because he's scared to throw a pick. That's going to be an X factor in this game. I think they're going to, it's tough for the Panthers because they're going to need to put up points and maybe they can hit this Rams team in the mouth with the run. They have a top 12 run defense. I think the Rams are actually a little better at defending the pass. Byron Young, who's the other pass rusher they have there that's really good. 15 combined sacks. They're great off the edge, great getting pressure. Akello Witherspoon. It's amazing to me. The Rams have these formerly bust corners. So whether it's Witherspoon, Emmanuel Forbes, he was awesome against the Bucs. So these guys that don't pan out on other teams go to Los Angeles and they're making plays specifically in that secondary. Cameron Kinchins, he is questionable. The safeties are the strength of that team. Lake, he is out. But their secondary is able to make plays. Kobe Durant, I said he's like a my player in 2K. He's the best traits of Kobe Bryant and Kevin Durant. He's a super player. Had a pick 6 against Baker. They completely humiliated Baker Mayfield. I mean, they had Baker so swarmed that Baker was literally running around trying to make plays happen with his feet. Because that's the default for Baker. He's such a competitor that when things don't pan out for him, he just lowers his shoulder into a linebacker. It's like, dude, you're like a 6'2", 190-pound dude. Like, he's not that small, but you're not like meant to be shouldering these edge rushers, Baker. And that's what they had him doing in that first half of that Bucks game. I think they completely got in Baker's head. So I think the key against this team is Canales, which I think he made the biggest mistake he's made all year. And believe me, he's hearing about it. Rico Dowdle posting the little confused emoji online after that game in which Rico and Chuba Hubbard had 6 carries in the first half against San Francisco. Dowdle takes the internet, as athletes do these days, and posts a little confused emoji. The emoji has like swirly eyes. He's confused. He's confused as to why the coach isn't effing running the ball. I think their best chance this game, as it is in most games, is to run the ball. Punch them in the mouth. This is a Rams team that's thinking about tomorrow. And I know McVay runs a tight ship. I know Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator. He's great. He's been awesome all season. I know they're not going to look past the Panthers. But even coming off a short week for Carolina, I think your best approach is run this team over. Run them over. They're not going to want to play a really physical game of football. This is a team that's worried about getting the first round bye. This is a team that has the MVP favorite quarterback. They want to stop you early. They want to do what they've done over these past few weeks, which is hold teams to 10 points or fewer. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, they go into these games against the Rams, they're just throwing it all over the yard. That's not going to work. Even if Bryce Young is on, I don't think that's going to work for the Panthers. 6 interceptions in the past 2 weeks this Rams defense has had on Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. 6. You think your guy is going to fare much better than those two? Darnold, who I think leads the league in yards per attempt, been just feeding his receivers over the top. Baker, who has slowed down, he's come back to earth, but started the year in the MVP talks. The Bucs were considered one of the best teams in football earlier this season. The Rams have outscored opponents by an average of 18.5 points over the past 6 games. Run the ball. Run the ball. Don't give the ball to Stafford. And even if they try to confuse you at the line of scrimmage, they bring the safety in and then, he drops back into coverage, whatever it is, just run them over. Just do it for the sake of it. Just do it. I know obviously they might force you to pass, but I think they need to come out under the impression that we're going to run it. That's what Dave Canales needs to be saying. That's what he needs to do. Run this team over. They don't want to defend the run. They want the first round bye. This game is a trip to the water cooler for them. They want to sit there. They don't want to talk about work. Are you kidding me? They don't want to talk about the reports and all that crap. They want to get out of here. They want to get out of here with an easy win. Let's talk about Bryce Young. This was an interesting quote from the quarterback on his progressions.
When you're looking at your evaluating your own play as you go through and watch the tape, are you seeing opportunities where maybe you could run more, or no, or what do you think?
I'm just taking things, play by play. We talk about getting through progressions. When one's open, throwing a number one. Obviously, coaches put plays in with a 1, a 2, a 3, or 4. My job is to get through all that when I can. And when there's times to run, when the play breaks down, when we're above the time clock, then that's what it is. But again, every game's different, every play is different. Regardless of running and passing, you can't predetermine either one. You have to make whatever is the right decision for the team. So the goal is to be as efficient in doing that as possible.
A little small thing I noticed in how he phrases that statement, which is, I'll get through the progressions, quote unquote, when I can. When I can. And I know it's a small little detail, but I think that quote is so telling. I think it goes to show how Bryce Young feels about the protection. He doesn't trust it. And whether he's still scarred from Ekwonu in 2023, Ekwonu had a really bad year, specifically in pass protection, or Chandler Zavala's 6.2 pass protection grade in 2023 as Zavala had to come into the lineup due to injuries. I think it goes to show that Young might be a little bit fractured from that, and it all relates to this underlying question, which is the quarterback broken? The reporter's literally asking Bryce Young about his decompression routine, about how he finds happy places. Like, imagine how demoralizing that is for the quarterback. You have Mike Kay asking about what his happy place is. Bryce, what's your happy place? Like, are you like the Tone? Do you like to listen to Pearl Jam during a hot shower? Just throw Yellow Ledbetter on loop. Just stand in the shower for 45 minutes. Play Green Day or something. Use one of them bath bombs. You throw that thing in, just like explodes into a bunch of colors. Bryce Young reads like Harry Potter draws a hot bath and reads Harry Potter. And this is where we're at right now. These are the questions he's getting. I think everyone in their right mind is asking, is the quarterback broken? To which I say, look, Sean McVay's wearing those glasses, those aviator sunglasses like he's Agent Anderson in The Matrix. Bryce Young needs to be Neo and take the red pill. He needs to be Neo and say, you know what? I'm done living in fear of the turnover. I'm done feeling the coach's breath down my neck about these turnovers. The do right more and don't turn it over, and that's what gives us the best chance to win. I'm done. I'm going to go out there and be like Stafford and sling it. And if Coker has a yard of separation, I'm putting it there. If T-Mac has a yard of separation, I'm putting it there. Leggette's a little bit different, but if he has a step, I'm throwing it. And he just needs to sling it around. Because this is where you're at if you're him. And we'll talk about next year a lot more on this segment, a lot more on this show moving forward, what the plan is with Bryce Young. I think at least they're going to bring in competition and, there could be a change at that position unless Tepper is really, really sold on making this work with Bryce. But I think at this point for him, the rubber has met the road. It's the scene in Indiana Jones. He's got to pull out the gun and shoot the guy. He's just got to go out there and shoot. Just go out there and shoot. I used Indiana Jones because some people don't love all the Star Wars references. And he is in a duel, a Western duel. Just pull out the pistol and hope for the best. Just pull out the revolver, throw the ball down the field. And I think there's part of him that's not over the benching from last year. He did the interview with Kimberly Martin of ESPN. It was such a great interview before the Monday night game. And Bryce Young gives you 20 minutes, but really it's summed up by him calling the benching last season in 2024 his come to Jesus moment. It's like, I was a 5-star recruit. I was so good my whole life, and then I get benched. And it's like, oh, geez, what do I do here? And I think this guy has been through a lot. I think he needs a proverbial vacation. You're not going to get that. And if it's going to work out here, it's not going to be next offseason. It's not going to be next season. It's this game. It's the next game. It's these last few games. And if he can make it work, he'll be in a lot better place. The Panthers will be in a lot better place. We'll talk about the future more. The Tone doesn't like talking about the future. It stresses him out, but we're going to do it anyway. Next week and beyond. This is The Tone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Black Friday special. You're never getting 50% off here. I don't charge for the program. What you want a deal? You want a discount? This is The Tone.